We also want filters. For instance, I want to add a gain filter because if I'm recording, this is too quiet, right? Like it's not inaudible. It's definitely audible, but it's too quiet. It needs some boosting. So I need a panel somewhere to deal with filters. I know how OBS does it. I kind of think it's a little ugly, frankly. So I don't want to just copy that. But we can maybe change how it works later. Change how it looks later. Change how it feels. I also would like to slightly move these numbers because they're not quite centered, but well, that's how it is for now. Okay, I'm not getting any inspiration, so for now we're just going to hack something together, and maybe I'll have to think about this in slow time. So what we're going to hack together is we're just going to hack together a button, or maybe even just a dialog box, honestly, that you can specify an output, and then, I don't know, press a button and it'll change the output. So what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to start storing our UI state. So far, we've basically just been storing our processing state. Even this, whether it's recording or not, that's not really UI state. That's processing state. It's just you set it via the UI, I guess. So now we want to actually start storing some UI state. Okay, let's start with something really basic down here. We're going to have a single output and we're going to be able to specify where it goes. And we're going to have a button that hooks up the output, basically. We're going to say you can only do this if you're not recording, or no, what we're going to say is if you change the output, it will stop recording. I think. Well, I don't know about that. The reason I don't know about that is because if you have multiple outputs, maybe you only want to change one of them and you want the other one to keep going. In that case, we really have recording not being just a property of your input, but also a property of your outputs, and you need both of them to be working, which makes this a bit more finicky. In fact, it makes it a bit more annoying. We may actually have to construct a fake packet or clone this one. Though I think when we clone, or at least when we reference, increase the reference counter to it, it doesn't clone the backing store, right? Because it's reference counted. Let's go to the codec. What is this? This is the frame. Decoding. Receive frame. Yeah, here's the data. So we can probably just clone all that. I wonder if there's an easy function to deal with frames. So here's ref, not quite what I want. Clone. Yeah, okay, so we can clone a frame pretty easily. That's nice to know. This is a shortcut for alloc plus ref. Oh, no. That's not what I think of as a clone. I'm gonna be real with you. That's not what I think of as a clone. So we may have to reach into the buffer and clone the buffer, which that's not a big deal. Where's the... Well, pointers in data and extended data must point into one of the AV buffer ref in buff or extended buff. There's buff. Okay, here we go. So can we clone these? And that references them. I guess we just have to clone it the good old-fashioned way by cloning the data. But okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We may not have to do that. I think just having a field. Well, okay, let's think about the threaded nature of our program. Is this going to happen in a separate thread or not? Whoops. For instance, do we want something to indicate whether the output is valid? I don't think so. The reason why I don't think so is if we have too many different threads, who owns that? So if the UI thread is changing, for instance, if the user clicks the hey redirect my output button, then the UI thread needs to change valid. So it's a writer. But then the background thread, the I guess processing thread or the output thread or the whatever, it needs to reset up the whole output and then write to valid. So we have two writers to valid. Though they only strictly go one direction. One thread writes valid 0, one thread writes valid 1, and they only act from the other state. So there's not actually a data problem there, though that is, again, we're getting more complex of a model. But kind of more fundamentally, the question is how do we check that? Like, I don't really want to, every time I go to process a thread, check, is this valid? If no, make a new one. Is there a better way of doing it? Because I don't really want the main thread to be responsible for, or the UI thread, I guess, to be responsible for doing that. But the UI thread does have important data it needs to pass through. Yeah, this is a fairly fundamental question. How do we want to pass data like that? And is the answer every single time we simply check if this variable is set or not? So we can do a condition variable of sorts, although I would probably just do it as a mutex where if no mutex, yeah, maybe a semaphore, though that's an even more complex data model. So what I was going to say is if we can't grab a mutex, well, okay, that's even worse because then every time we're checking to see if we can grab a mutex rather than just checking if some variable is set. I think unfortunately we're just going to have to check every time if some variable is set, unless we want the UI thread to be the one that's actually doing the relaunching of the output, which we can do. Like that's certainly not impossible, not by any means, but I don't think I want to. I don't think I want the UI being responsible for doing that. I think I just want it to be drawing the UI and managing some state. That's kind of messy. Let's do it and see how it feels. All right, we'll do it and we'll see how it feels. So what's going to cause... No, we're not quite there yet. We're not at the point where we need to worry about undoing valid. We need to just set valid for now. So if we get down here, then we have valid equals 1. We should probably write this, honestly. So we need to... do a bunch of this stuff. Just close input, close the IO. Somewhere here, right? Where am I? I am in AV format. AV format, close input. Whoops, what did I click? Free it and all its contents. Does that include the IO? I have no idea. Let's go to IO content. Well, you know how we can find out. We could do a programmer move and read the source code. Yes, yes it does. All right. Interesting that it only does it for input format, not output format. I wonder what that is. We free this, free this, free this. Okay, we haven't written the header. In fact, I think... Is there ever a reason? I don't think there's ever a reason to have that. And I'm not sure if there's ever a reason to have this. Because I think we just want to do it here. I don't know if that's quite true. Oh, that's not what I was expecting. May only be called off as successful call to AV format right header. Yeah. I think... Is it AV format? No, it's just AV. But it's AV format right header? Okay, sure. I'll make the rules. I don't make the rules. Let's do that. Okay. I think that makes sense. We can change it later though. But I think that's all right. And at the end here, what we want to do